Okay.
Welcome to the Shiur. Tonight's Shiur on Parshas Terumah is being learned. The Zecher Nishmas, my brother-in-law, Dov Beirish Nochem Ben Yehuda, whose yahrzeit was today. Yeah. And we're going to also mention that we have people who are always part of our dedicated also the Refuah Shlema for Menachem Mordechai ben Ophira and Esther Bas Chaya Rivka. And we hope that they have a Refuah Shlema as
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Holy Israel. We're going to go to our Shiur immediately. We're going to start with our first share, which of course is going to be based on the Parsha, and then from there we're going to pick it up. All right, we go to our first share here. We'll have to make it a little bit smaller in order that we could see it. Let's see. I don't want to wipe it out altogether, so let's see if I can do it this way. Okay, here it is. Parshas Terumah. Let me move this just a little bit.
Recording in progress.
Get back to the sheet. Go back to this. Stop sharing. Go back to the share. 7. Here we go. Go back to the share. All right, Parshas Terumah. Here it is. The Parsha begins with the words, Vayedaber Hashem Moshe Lemor, and Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, I'm going to focus on that pasuk just for one moment. Whenever we see this sentence, which is appearing hundreds of times throughout the Torah, what we have to say to ourselves is what's happening here is that Hashem is speaking to Moshe, Lemor, that he should in turn say this over to Bnei Yisrael. So Vayedaber Hashem was speaking El Moshe, to Moshe, Lemor, that he should say these words over to the Jewish people. And that's the way the Torah was learned. Now, at the beginning of Parshas Terumah, which we have to translate the word Terumah. Now, the word Terumah, of course, is related to the responsibility to give the Kohen Terumah. It's the same word, and it means to set aside something that you give as tzedakah. The Kohen is given Terumah from the produce of the Jewish people. Terumah, in that which was given to the Kohen, was given at 3 levels. You could give it at any one of 3 levels. The truth of the matter is you can give it even at less, but Chazal, the Rabbanon, told us that there are 3 levels. One is 1/40th of the produce, 1/50th of the produce, or 1/60th of the produce, depending on how you feel. If you were generous, you're going to give 1/40th. If you're not so generous, you'll give 1/60th. The average person.
No, the average 1/50th.
But when it comes to the Terumah that is spoken about in the beginning of this week's Edra, it says, Daber el bnei Yisrael, the Yikuli Terumah, they should take for me Terumah. We'll discuss those words in a few moments. May Eis Kolish Hashem Yudvenu Libo, from every person that his heart donates. It's got to be an adava from the heart of the person. Tikhu as Terumah, see, you should take my Terumah. And v'zos ha-terumah asher tikhu beitam, this is the separation that you should take from them, zohav v'chesef u'nechoshes, gold, silver, and copper. We're going to focus on this pasuk. At the beginning, pasuk beis, Daber el bnei Yisrael v'yikhu li terumah. Speak to the Jewish people, and they shall take for me a separation that they're going to give. They should take for me a donation that they're going to give, because they're going to give gold and silver and copper and other things. And it says v'yikhuli, they should give to me. But it doesn't say v'yitnuli. It doesn't say they should give to me. It says they should take for me. In the Parsha video that we made, we're going to spend a moment or two on that, but not tonight. So I want to mention that whenever you give, you're really getting. And in fact, the Torah here wanted to specifically use the term, they should take for me. Because the truth of the matter is, as the Oznaim LaTorah points out, from Zalman Sorotskin in his Sefer, Oznaim LaTorah points out, when it says, V'yikhlu li Terumah, they should take from me Terumah, when you're giving, you're really getting. How does that work? How are you really getting when you give? So we're going to take a look at another share right now. We're going to stop this one, and we're going to go. There is a way to get directly to it, but I'm going to stop this one, and we're going to go to the next. Maybe I don't have to stop it. Let's see. No, I'm going to stop this share, and we're going to go to the next share right now. Okay. And you're going to notice on this share, why do we say v'yikhlu li Terumah? And they should take for me Terumah. Okay, so we'll highlight this. We'll come right back. And now we're going to, where'd you go? Where'd you go? 1 second. Okay, enlarge this a little bit. Go back. It's not there. Okay, 1 second. We'll stop the share just for a second. We're going to go get the other one. It was there a minute ago. Oh, gotta go here. What? It worked before. If I say, be patient 1 minute, we have this problem. Every time I come across this, it shouldn't be this way, but it is. We'll try to go shrink this one down. Oh, I can get it now. Let's move this over a little bit. Oh, okay. Not this one. One back. Okay, there it is. There it is, and we go to here. This is a Gemara, which I'm going to show you in Tainus. If I can get the original daf. 1 second. Oops. Go back. Okay, here it is. All right. So if you take a look here on Tainus, Daf Tes Amud Aleph, you all see this?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Look at what it says over here. We're talking here about giving tzedakah. So we said Terumah, and Terumah is the yikhuli, they should take for me. Look what the Gemara at the beginning of Tainus, Daf Tes says. Aser to aser. This is the pasuk in Parsha A, which talks about the giving of tzedakah. And it says, aser to aser, you should surely give a tenth. Okay? And the Gemara translates this as, aser bishvil shetisasher. Give a tenth so you shall become an ashir. wealthy. If you give a tenth, you will become wealthy. So automatically, what we see is that when we said v'yikchu li terumah, they should take for me terumah, and they're going to give this money to tzedakah. We're seeing that the Gemara is translating that when you give tzedakah, automatically you're going to become rich. So it is v'yikchu. If you give the tzedakah, you're going to be wealthy. Aser b'shvil shetis asher. Now the Gemara is going to tell us a fascinating story. Let's learn this piece of Gemara. Ashkechei Rabbi Yochanan liYanuka, the Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan met the child of Reish Lakish, Amar Alei, and he said to the child, now this is a common thing when rabbis meet young children. They'll say to him, Psok li.
That's his nephew, right? It's Rabbi Yochanan's nephew, right?
His nephew, right?
Right.
Li psukech. Tell me what pasuk you're studying in yeshiva. What are you learning today? Right? Like a child comes over to a grandparent's house, and the grandparent says, "What are you learning in yeshiva?" The same question. Rabbi Yochanan is asking his nephew, Reish Lakish's son, "What are you learning in yeshiva?" Amalei, he said, "I learned aser to aser. I learned you surely give a tenth." Amalei, umay aser to aser. Why does it say it twice? What does it mean? Amalei, he said to him, aser b'shvil shetis asher. Give a tenth so you can become wealthy. Amalei, so Rabbi Yochanan said to the child, Minolacha, how do you know that that's so? How do you know that if you give a tenth, you're going to become wealthy? Amalei, he said to his uncle, Zil Nasi, go and test it out. Look, the pasuk in Devarim, in Parsha Re'eh, says, Aser to Aser. Aser b'shvil shetis asher. Give a tenth so you become wealthy. So Rabbi Yochanan says, how do you know that's going to happen? So the kid said, my Rebbe told me, go test it out. See what happens. Okay. So, Amalei, Rabbi Yochanan said to the child, Umi shari l'nesaye, do you have the right to test Hashem? Hashem said, Aser b'shvil shetis asher. But do you have a right to go and test God to find out whether this is going to really be so? You don't have to test God. The child answers, he asked the question, can you test Hashem? Rabbi Yochanan says, doesn't the pasuk in Devarim say, Lo senasu es Hashem? You're not allowed to test God? There's a pasuk that says you're not allowed to test God. So what do you mean I should go test it? So the child knew a little bit too, and he said, Amalei, Hachi Amar Rav Oshia. I want to tell you what was said by the great Rabbi Yoshia, right? Chutz mizu, with the exception of tzedakah. That's the one thing you have the right to test Hashem with. Shenemar, and he quotes the pasuk in Malachi, the last Navi, where it says, Heviu es kol ha-meiser el beis ha'otzer, bring all your meiser to the storehouse, v'yehi teref bevesi, and it will be torn off in my home as food for the poor. And you can test me with this, said Hashem. I am going to open up the windows of heaven, the storehouses of the windows of heaven, and I'm gonna rain down on you blessing ad belidai. What does ad belidai mean? So the Gemara asks, my ad belidai, what does that mean? Ad belidai. Until there's not enough? What does it mean? So he says, no. My ad belidai, Amar Rami Bar Chama, Amar Rav. Rami Bar Chama explained this pasuk in the name of Rav, that it says, follow the hand, Ad sheyivlu sifso sechem milomar dai. Until your lips get weary of saying die. You say die, 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 your lips are going to get weary.
They only use lips for die.
There is a discussion in the Mefarshim about the fact that you don't use your lips to say the word die, only you use your tongue. So they explain it means you're going to say die brachos, die brachos, die brachos. And the base constantly coming in, it's enough, it's enough. And the truth is, no one's ever going to say enough, but die brachos. Okay, so you're going to get so much, I believe that. The Gemara here is very explicit, and it tells us you have the right to test with the giving of tzedakah. The truth is, I have spoken to people over the years, and those who gave tzedakah said they never, ever regretted it. It always was given back to them wholeheartedly in spades by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They always managed. And the question is, how much tzedakah one has to give today? We know that the tzedakah, that when it says aser b'shvil shetis asher, is not talking about money. It's talking about the produce of the land. Meiser ksafim, which means the giving of the 10th of money, is not the same as this. This is talking about the mitzvah de oraisa of giving produce. Meiser money is a midrabanan law. And there is discussion whether or not you have the right to apply this particular bracha that comes in Malachi about that. But the Tosfos here, we don't have time to read this, but I'll tell you what basically is beautiful. It's a story in this Tosfos. And the Tosfos tells a story. I'm not going to be able to read it to you, but I'll just tell it over. What it says, that there was a man who had a good business, and every year he would take a 10th of his money and he would give it to tzedakah, and the next year he would get more, and he would take a 10th and he would give it to tzedakah, and his wealth kept increasing. It came time for him to leave the world, and he, on his deathbed, told his children, he said, listen, I'm leaving the Yerusha over to you, but I want you to follow what I'm telling you now. I want you to give your meiser every year. And you'll see that if you give the meiser, the produce will constantly be increased. So some of the brothers did that, and they saw. They made $10,000 that year. They gave 1,000 to tzedakah. The next year they made $11,000. So they gave 1,100 to tzedakah. And the year after they made more, until they made 20,000. And they gave 2,000 to tzedakah. Because what happened is that Hashem entrusted them with more money so that they could give more meiser. And the more money Hashem entrusted them with, the more meiser they were able to give. So they became Hashem's shaliach. Hashem made them the balabas on the money, and they became Hashem's shaliach to give the money. But there was one brother who said, what? Do you realize what this is? I make $10,000 and I give 1,000 to charity? That's a lot of money. I'm not going to give 1,000 this year. I'm going to give 500 this year. And the next year, his share was only 5,000. And when it came to 5,000 and to give 500, it was so big in his mind, I'm not going to give 500. I'm going to give 200. The next year, instead of making 5,000, he only made 2,000. And so it went. The less he gave, the less he made, until he was ending up being penniless. And all his brothers said, what'd you do? Why'd you do that? He said, well, it was just too much money to give away. He said, yeah, but don't you understand the way it works? Hashem entrusted you with 10,000 so that you would give 1,000. But when you gave 500, he says, I only have to entrust him with 5,000. And so it went. And consequently, the pasuk is saying, Aser b'shvil shetis asher. So going back to our pasuk now, we go back to our pasuk at the beginning of this whole discussion. We stop this year, we go back to the next year of the pasuk coming in. And now it's not going to give me that one. It's going to give me this one. Okay, we'll find it. Coming in to coming into this. Okay, we'll try to get back to where we were one minute. So we'll get this out of the way. And we'll go to the next one. Okay. So we went from this pasuk of Aser to Aser, which showed the wealth that one was able to get. And we saw that Aser b'shvil shetis asher, here is the Gemara without the Gemara pageantry, pagination, which shows us what the words were. Okay, so now what we want to do, we also want to see a Rashi on this particular pasuk. So let's take a look at a Rashi over here. Okay, we have the psukim, and now what we want to do, in addition to seeing the pasuk, we want to see the Rashi of this particular pasuk, and we're going to try to get it by going back to, let's see if we can narrow this down a bit. No, it's not giving me the right page. We want to go back to my Judaica Classics library. And, all right, we're going to get rid of this page. And we're going to go to the next page. Minus, which I will this. This is not what we want. So, oh, here we are. So we're going to go to Rashi. Rashi. V'yikuli Terumah. They should take for me Terumah. Oops. Okay, top line. V'yikuli Terumah. The first Rashi in this particular Sedger, this is Rashi in Shmos, Perek Chafei. V'yikuli Terumah. Rashi makes a two-word comment. Li lishmi. When it says v'yikuli, it says v'yikul Terumah. The li is li lishmi, for my name. You should do it for the sake of the mitzvah. You should do it lishmi. A mitzvah has to be done lishma. When you do a mitzvah lishma, it has a fantastic effect. Let's take a look at some of the effect that this could have. We're going to go to a Gemara in a different place right now. We're going to a Gemara in Bava Metzia. And this Gemara in Bava Metzia is on Daf, I believe it's Pei Amid Beis. Here it is. A Gemara in Bava Metzia, Pei Hey Amid Beis. I'm going to make it a little bit larger so that we can really take a look at this very interesting piece of Gemara. Here we go. There's a piece of Gemara here in which there's a discussion amongst some of the rabbis over here. They want to find out, what's the mitzvah of teaching Torah all about? All right. So the Gemara has a discussion of how Rabbi Chia made it that the Torah would never be forgotten. An unbelievable statement. Where is it? Pei Hey on Beis. Yeah, here we go. Pei Hey on Beis. And Rabbi Chia made the following statement. Okay. There were a number of rabbis who were talking together, and they said, follow me here. Case where Elio another used to come, and so on and so forth. And here, the Gemara brings up a story about Rabbi Chia, and it says as follows. It says, hey, let me take a look 1 second. I wrote it down. It's on the Hey Amid Beis. Yeah, Hey Amid Beis. Okay. Over here. Here it is. Okay. The Gemara has a discussion. Amalei Rabbi Chia Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Chia said to Rabbi Chanina, because they were having a discussion of halachic import, and Rabbi Chia said to Rabbi Chanina, "Bahadei dika minsis." But you're going to argue with me? Don't argue with me. The avdi leTorah de lo tishtakach mi Yisrael. I made it that the Torah will never be forgotten from the Jewish people. You hear this? Maya vidna. What do you think? Well, you know what I did? And this is to teach us how lishma comes from the very beginning on. Azlina, I went. The Shadina Kitna, I planted flax. The Gadilna, and I grew the flax. from flaxseed. I grew the flax. Then Nishbi. Then the Gadilna Nishbi. And I took the flax and I made nets out of it. Because a net can be used as a trap. So the Gadilna Nishbi, I made nets. V'tzaydena tavi. And I captured a deer. Uma'achilna b'srayu liasmi. And I fed the meat of the deer to orphans. Va'arichna magilta. And then I used the hide to make parchment on which I could write a Megillah, meaning I could write the Torah. Because Savna Chamisha Chumshe, and I wrote the 5 books of Moshe on the hide of the deer. V'salikna lamasa, and then I went to town, the Makrina Chamisha Yanuki, and I taught 5 children B'chamisha Chumshi, the 5 books of the Torah. One child I taught Bereshis, one child I taught Shmos, another one Vayikra, then Bamidbar and Devarim. 5 children. I taught it to them. All right. Umasnina Shita Yanuki, and then I taught the Mishnah, all Shisha Sidvei Mishnah, to 6 other children, which I had written down in order for them to learn it. Shita Sidvei. I taught them all 6 orders of the Mishnah. And I said to them, Ada Va'atina, by the time I come back next year, Ikru Adadi, teach each other. Bereshis teach the Shmos people, and the Vayikra people, and the Bamidbar people, and the Varim people. The Shmos people teach the Bereshis, the Vayikra, and so on, and teach each other all that I've taught you, right? As he instructed them. Right? The Isnu Adadi, teach everybody each other. The Avdi lo leTorah de lo tistakach mi Yisrael. And I made it that the Torah will never be forgotten from the Jewish people. Why? Because I did it l'shmi. I did it l'shem Hashem. It's not just the Torah that I taught l'shem Hashem. I even planted the flax l'shem Hashem. I planted every last part. I did everything l'shem Shamayim. And when you do something that's l'shem Shamayim, it comes out l'shem Shamayim. Now, what's the big deal here about l'shem Shamayim? Why is this so important? So if we go back a little bit, we're going to see that back to Mitzia. I want to go back to okay, I can get it anyway. We can go to the library and get go to the library right now, and we'll get the psukim. Okay, so we're going to go to Parsha's Terumah once again. Okay, here it is. So now we're back to Terumah, and we said that this is going to be an idea of Lishmi. Let's take a look at one of the psukim a little bit more. I want to go to Pasuk Tess over here. Okay. No, I'm sorry. Before we get to Pasuk Tess, a little later. Here it is. Pasuk Ches. Sorry. Here it is. Pasuk Ches. I'm going to highlight it right now. You're going to see it on the page. Okay. You see this? V'asuli mikdash. V'asuli mikdash. Plural. V'asuli mikdash. They shall make for me a sanctuary. V'shachanti b'socham. And I will dwell in their midst. There's a tremendous question that all the Balei Machshava and all the Mefarshim speak about. Why does Hashem need a place where he is going to dwell? First of all, it's impossible. We say every day in the davening, Kadosh, 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 Hashem Tzavakos, holy, holy, holy Hashem, the Lord of hosts. Melochol ha'aretz kevodo, the whole world, not just the land. Kol ha'olam kulo, Molei Kavodo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is greater than the world. The whole world is in him. If that's the case, how could you possibly take Hashem and put him in a building? I don't care how big and how beautiful the Beis HaMikdash is. Hashem is greater than the building. How do you fit Hashem into the building? And why does he need a Mikdash where he is going to be put into it? He can't fit into it anyway. Hashem can't fit into the building. The building is constituted as part of the world, and the world is within the unbelievable vastness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. No matter how many millions of light years people expand the universe, you can't fit Hashem into a small little building. What's going on over here? What is the whole purpose of all this? Now, by the way, this is not my question. This is a question that all the Balei Machshava ask. If you take a look at the Sefer HaChinuch, in talking about the mitzvah of making a place for Hashem to stay, what's the point? Hashem doesn't fit in anyway. How can you get Hashem to stay in a place it doesn't fit into? And besides, why do you need a place? What's the purpose of it? Hashem is everywhere, no matter where you go. So what's this business with having a Beis HaMikdash and making it a place where Hashem, and we long for the holiness of the Beis HaMikdash. When we walk into a shul, we have a sense of reverence because it's a Mikdash Ma'at, and Hashem is there. Hashem is everywhere. But what do you mean he's more there? So the Kuzari and others of the great philosophical bent explain as follows. The building of the Beis HaMikdash is not for Hashem. It's for us. We're finite human beings. We relate to having a place in which we put on our understanding that in this place, there's a sense of holiness. The truth of the matter is, there are only two main things in all of the world. One of them is place. The other one is time. Everything can be expressed in time or place. A house is a place. The Beis Medrash is a place. The shul is a place. The ballpark is a place. Swimming in a pool is a place. And then there's time. There's the sanctity of the Shacharis, the Mincha, and the Ma'ariv, of a Shabbos, of a Yom Tov. There's the sanctity of a Shkia, of a Tzesek al-Choven. That's time. There's the sanctity of a Mitzvah Hasei Shazman Grama, which means that there's a Pesach on a certain date, and there's a Sukkot on a certain date, and there's a Hanukkah on a certain date. There's a Purim on a certain date. And we sanctify both time and place on a constant basis. We sanctify time by davening Shachos, Mincha, and Ma'ariv. We sanctify time by putting on tefillin and tzitzis. We sanctify time by doing all the mitzvahs Hasei Shazman Grama that women are patur from, but may do if they wish. But women sanctify time in an equal, if not better way, according to a very, very famous article, actually a little pamphlet that was written by former president of Yeshiva University, by Norman Lamb, who wrote so beautifully in his book, A Hedge of Roses, explaining how the inner biological clock of a woman is a sanctification of time that is more internal and personal than the man's sanctifying time by the external putting on a tefillin and wearing tzitzis and so on. So each of the beings on this earth have to sanctify both time and place. When the pasuk in this week's Sedra says, "V'asu li mikdash," and they should make for me a holy sanctuary, notice it doesn't say v'shachanti b'socho. It doesn't say I will live in it. Look at the end of this pasuk. It says v'shachanti. I'm going to highlight that word. V'shachanti b'socham. Interesting. V'osu li migdash. They shall make for me a sanctuary, and not v'shachanti b'socho, and I will dwell in its midst, but rather v'shachanti b'socham. I will dwell in their midst, because if they will recognize the sanctity of that particular mikdash, and they will come to that mikdash for the sake of improving their sanctity, I will dwell in their midst. If we build a shul and people come into the shul for davening, it's not that Hashem is sanctifying the building of the shul and dwelling in the shul. He's dwelling in the midst of all the congregants, all the people who are davening, all those who are saying Kadosh, 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 Hashem Tzvakos Malo Kol Haaretz Kavodo. Because he's dwelling in the hearts and minds of each and every one of the people who are saying those statements. So this pasuk in Terumah is fascinating because it says V'osuli mikdash v'shachanti b'socham, and I will dwell in their midst, not in its midst, but in their midst. Okay, there's a lot more to speak about in this, but I want to go on to another aspect of this particular sedger. And that aspect is that we have to think to ourselves about the way the minutiae, all the minute details that are given about the building of various kalim, various vessels in the Mishkan that ultimately were going to be transported with the Jewish people throughout their history and be taken to the Beis HaMikdash. And even after the Beis HaMikdash, the Torah will never leave us, as we're going to see. But I want to focus on that particular series of questions, of psukim now. We're starting here with the highlight. The asu aron atzei shitim. They should make an ark of shittim wood. Now, I want you to notice the measurements of the ark. What's unique about them? Number one, amasayim v'chetzi orko. The length of it is 2.5 cubits. Amosayim v'chetzi. 2 amos and a half. That's the length of it. Amosayim v'chetzi orko. Let's go to the width. V'amo v'chetzi dochbo. And an amma and a half in the width. And now let's go to the height. The amma v'chetzi komoso. And a cubit and a half in height. A cubit is approximately 18 to 24 inches. There are different measurements. There's some discussion among the poskim of exactly how much is an amma. According to Rav Avram Chaim Noeh, the amma is 18 inches. Conventionally, we say that from the elbow until the tip of the tallest finger, on the average person, approximates 18 inches. Some will be a little less, some will be a little more, but it approximates 18 inches, and this is called an amma. We find the word amma way back at the beginning of Shmos, where it says that Basya sent her hand out to get the basket that Moshe was in, the teva that Moshe was in. It says, Vatishlach es amasa. She sent out her amma, her hand, but her hand stretched amos harbe, many amos. So it's an indication that an amma is a hand from here to here. Here, when it comes to the measurements of the Aron is the only one of the kalim where every single measurement was in half. Every measurement was somewhat of a half. The height was the length was 2.5 amas, the width was 1.5, and the height was 1.5. Everything in half. Why? Why does it specifically say that the Aron had to be in halves? The both say it's easy to figure out because the Torah is waiting for the other half. Us. The Torah is waiting for that other half to be completed. When the Torah is learned by the other half, the human half that goes and learns the Torah, and when we learn the Torah, we think to ourselves, oh, I can learn this whole thing. Only half. Whatever we learn is only going to be part. We're never going to get it all. There's a famous story about the Vilna Gaon. Now, he was a young child when he did this, but it's apocryphal. It may be, one of these very interesting stories that could be true. Maybe it's not true, but it was well known that the Vilna Gaon knew all of Shas by heart. By the way, he's not the only one. There are many, many people today in our society that know Kol HaTorah Kula by heart. There are people like this. I've met them. In a way, I'm jealous of them. And that's okay, because our Chazal tell us, Kinas Sofrin Tarbe Chochma. If you have jealousy of the great learners, the scribes, you will increase your knowledge. You'll increase your wisdom. But they know it all. And the Vilna Gaon certainly knew all of Shas. Now, when he was a young child, I don't know how old he was. Was he 15? Was he 12? When he knew all of Shas, his mind was like a fire? I don't know. But the point is, someone once said to him, young man, I understand that you know all of Shas. So the Vilna Gaon said, he was humble, and he said, no, I'm sorry, I only know half. So they asked him, which half do you know? And he answered, whichever half you'll ask me. So he was humble, but he let them know. Whichever half you ask me. But that's the measurement of the Aron. It was constantly in halves, because we're the other half. And we always only know part. And even the Vilna Gaon, in his younger years, might have been kidding around, might have been serious, but the fact of the matter is, he was just a human being like we are. Moshe Rabbeinu knew it all, but he was also just a human being. And the Torah was given to humanity. And therefore the Torah says, and I will dwell in their midst. And there's a lot more about this. I just want to mention another aspect of the Aron. We don't have a lot of time, but I want to focus on this particular pasuk for a moment. When describing the Aron, the Torah tells us, "B'tabos ha'aron yiyu abadim," the poles that carry the Aron were put inside rings. Now, if you've ever seen a picture of the Aron, you can get them online. I don't have time to go play around to get them. But the rings of the Aron went through the poles of the Aron. The poles of the Aron went through two rings that were on the corners. There were four rings, four corners, and there were two poles, two on one side and two on the other side. And those poles were put into the rings, and you could then lift the Aron by picking up the poles. There would be a Kohen in the front, and a Kohen on each side in the front, and a Kohen on each side in the back. According to some, there were two and two and two and two. There were 8 Kohanim or more, and they carried it. And it's interesting, if you take a look in Chumash Bamidbar, and I believe it's Parsha's Bamidbar itself, when the Bnei Kos carried the Aron, Rashi even quotes that ha'aron nosei es nos of, when they lifted up the Aron, which weighed a ton, because it was overlaid with gold, they just had to make a move to lift it, and it says Aron nosei es nos of. The Aron carried those that carried it. And that's a fact, because the Torah is that way too. When we accept on our shoulders the responsibility to keep the Torah, it's amazing how the Torah lifts us up. Just as it lifted the Bnei Kahas to carry it, so it lifts the Jewish people that take the Aron, put it on their shoulders, and bear the burden of the Torah, and it carries them through life. In addition, the Aron itself was made of 3 layers. On the outside was gold. Inside the outer box was a box of wood. Inside the box of wood was another box of gold that had edges that covered over the wood. So you couldn't see the wood. All you saw was gold on the outside and gold on the inside, because it was a gold box with a wooden box, with a gold box inside the wooden box, and consequently all you saw was gold. Rav Shamshir Hirsch explains that the Torah itself has to be impervious to any change. It has to be solid gold. But on the inside, just as every Jew has to be solid gold, there has to be an element of wood. There has to be an element of growth. You have to be made like a tree. And like a tree grows, so can you grow. And therefore the Aron, which had these portable poles that help you carry it anywhere, was symbolic of the fact that no matter where the Jewish people go, they're going to be able to carry the Aron with them, because the poles can never be removed. And no matter where you go, even though solid gold is what the Aron looked like, you have to have a wooden core, meaning a vegetative core, one that's capable of sprouting and growing. We have to be impervious to the foolishness of the world around us. We have to be solid gold. But on the inside of our neshama, we have to be capable of growing and saying, I can do a little bit better. I can grow. I can learn one more letter, one more word, one more ideology, one more concept, one more shtickle Torah. I can do it. I can become a little bit better. I can perform the mitzvah a little bit better, more lishma. Just like Rabbi Chia, from the very beginning, planted flax so that he could ultimately write Sifrei Torah on the deerskins that he used when he captured them in the nets of the flax and gave the meat to the poor children. And it was all done l'shem shamayim, l'shmi, v'yikhu li terumah. They should take it for me. And there was a taking, because when you give, as we learn, aser b'shvil shetis asher, you give so that you can become wealthy, ad die. And you can test me, v'chanuni lo bazos, says Hashem. Varikosi lochem brocha ad die. So we see that Parshas Terumah is filled with brilliant ideas that help us understand the depth and beauty of the Torah. There's a lot more in the Parsha. I urge you to peruse it. The simple pshat, look at the Rashi. If you want to have some deep insights, look into Rav Shamshir Hirsch or any of the other Mefarshim that go to such great extent to enable us to understand the Torah. All right, we're going to stop the share and go back to our screen. And let me just go to the okay. All right, so let me see if I can get the view over there. The right view. There we go. There's our view. I don't know. A better view before. There is a way to get it, but I'm not sure exactly how. Okay, but everyone is welcome, and we'd like to, of course, wish a good Shabbos to everybody.
Same to you.
Wish everybody good Shabbos. Yeah, I hit the participants button, but somehow it doesn't show them all. Okay, whatever. I want to wish everybody a good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, Rabbi.
Thanks so much.
Very good Shabbos.
You have to co-op everything.
We want to remind everybody next Thursday night, if Yetz Hashem will continue. But once the clock is moved, we're going to be moving back to Shabbos afternoon Shiur. So it's only 2 more weeks, but if Yetz Hashem, we're going to be doing okay. Next week, we do have a Shiur. The following week is the day after Purim. We'll be all right. We'll have a Shiur.
That's the last one.
That's the last one.
That's the last one, Thursday night.
Mordechai is keeping us abreast of what's going on.
That's right.